All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Today is Monday, starting off the week. I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Mark Principato, Mark P. Markets, and I have a few things to share with you today. So, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Let me explain to you how this works. So, first, what we're going to do here, this is my forecasting or my analysis stream, right? This is not the same as my stream where we trade using the Trade Scanner Pro with the NASDAQ futures. Okay. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. On Mondays at 3 p.m. or 3:05 or whatever, I stream my analysis to basically update what I share on TradingView the day before and to answer questions and go over charts and things like that. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin mostly, but we can also cover other markets as well. Now, let's see who's watching me out there. I'm afraid to look at these numbers. Oh man, I don't know why I do this. I really don't, man. I don't know why I do this. But today is a holiday. To be fair, today is a holiday here in the U.S. And and I was debating whether I should even do this stream because I took the early session off. But I have some good news. Here, let me see my comments. I have some good news. And by the way, if you want to share what city or country you're from, it's always a fun fact. I'm streaming from the greater New York City area, also known as Northern New Jersey. Now, earlier today, I conducted my first interview. Merlin, the trader, made himself available, but I had to conduct that interview at 5 a.m. So it was a little, it wasn't exactly easy getting up at 4:30. And I'm like, I hope this guy shows up, man. But he showed up. Not only had he's shown up, but he also suggested I bring on this other guy onto the stream as well. This guy Tom, and Tom is a almost 40-year forex trader. Like he comes from like the early 90s when the interbank market before it was automated, right? Like he's like a real forex trader. So we got to talk to him a bit. I mean, he could be like my big brother, beating me up and stuff because I'm usually the old guy in these conversations, right? But he definitely had like a decade on me, pretty much, and that's it was very impressive, really, really cool. So for those of you that stick around and participate here and say a few things, I have a clip of that interview. Okay, I clipped a piece of it, and I'll show it to you guys. But I want to see some interest. Okay, so guys, let me know. You guys want to see it? I have a clip. Now I'm not going to show it right this second, but I clipped like 1 minute of the interview, so you guys can see what it's like. Now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna clean it up because I'm not the greatest speaker, and I say a lot apparently because when I watch these videos, I'm like, oh man, I, I should know these things by now. But anyway, so I got to clean up the ums and all those kind of things, and just make the sharpen the video here and there. But other than that, it's a really nice interview that Merlin was gracious enough to grant me, and there's definitely some good learning points to the whole thing. All right, so I don't see anyone in my chat here, man. Is anyone listening to me? I know I talk a lot, but give me a hello or something in the chat. Do you guys want to see the clip of the interview? Give me a yes or a no in the chat. I'm watching the chat. All right. So while we're waiting for that, and before we get into the charts, also do me a favor, press the like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That always helps. Here, let me put up my little graphic. Okay, like and subscribe. And if you're watching me on Twitter, do me a favor and retweet my stream. That's always helpful. Every time I ask people to do that, I only see like one retweet, so come on, people, help me out. Hey, Grego, how are you? Yeah, cool, cool. All right. So you want to? Anyone else want to see the clip? Let me know. All right. I have a clip of the interview. It's about a minute long, and I'm gonna share the little teaser with you guys. But I want to see some interest. All right. So before we get into the analysis portion of the stream here, because there's some interesting stuff going on here on Bitcoin, which you really should be aware of. Hey, Alex from Romania. Alex, how are you? Good to see you. Romania. I love Romania. So anyway, yeah, we have to get into what's going on here with Bitcoin because again, there's some important developments taking place right now that you really should be aware of. So we're going to talk about that. Yeah, thanks, Alex. Thanks. Do me a favor, people. Retweet the stream if you can. Now, before we get into the chart, let's talk quickly about the economic calendar, shall we? Because we should always do that every Monday before you begin your week. Now, on this week's economic calendar, I'm just going to point out there are a couple items worth mentioning. Okay. Oh, you had a presidential election in Romania? Oh, I had no idea. Who won? The left or the right? I'm going to guess. Well, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just going to flip a coin. I'll say the right one. But or do you have a left or a right? How does it even work over there? Oh, oh man. So I guess the left that would mean the left probably won because those guys lean to the right. Okay. Oh, uh-oh. Okay. All right. So I should probably stop talking about left and right. All right. So are you on the left there, Alex? No, I don't know. I have no idea how Romanian politics works. No clue. No idea. So anyway, thanks for letting us know about the election in Romania. It's good to know. All right. And see, we have a very global crowd in here. Get to know what's going on in other countries. And I'm glad your guy won, but I know nothing about him. Is he friends with Orange Man here in this country or no? I suspect he's not friends with him. But hey, I don't know. Anyway, uh, have a great. And the other one, oh, okay, cool, good to know. Good to know. So when I speak to any other people from Romania, I'll be like, all right, we got a great guy running the country now. And I'll be like, how do you know? I got connections over there, man. So anyway, all right, let's move. Let's move along. Economic calendar. So a couple of things worth mentioning here. Number one, we have tomorrow, which is Tuesday. Bank of New Zealand has their rate announcement. So if you trade Forex and you trade Kiwi crosses, you might want to be aware of that. I believe that comes out in the evening Eastern time. So be aware of the Bank of New Zealand with their rate announcement. On Wednesday, we have the FOMC meeting minutes. That's usually at 2 p.m. Eastern time. You want to be aware of that number because if there are any surprises or report, it's not really a number, it's a report. If there are any surprises, it can spike the market one way or the other. That's particularly important if you are a day trader. So be aware of that. Also, on that day, we have GDP annualized. That's not an important number. No one really cares about GDP, so I would just ignore that. I believe and then after that, there's really nothing that important until Friday. We have on Friday core PCE, which is core personal consumption expenditures, I believe, is what that stands for. Core PCE is a number that the Fed looks at. Okay. Hey, Jimmy, how are you? Good to see you. The core PCE is an important number that the Fed uses as a measure of inflation. I believe that's one of the components they use. So these days, they make a big deal out of that number. Years ago, it's like core what? What is that? Core PCE? What? No idea what that meant, right? But today, it's an important number. I believe that number comes out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, but I could be wrong because sometimes I mix up those numbers. So you might definitely double check the time when core PCE comes out. It's either 8:30 or 10 a.m. It's one of those numbers, I believe. All right. And I will be streaming at that time. So we'll know for sure when I'm streaming. But the reason why it's important, again, is if you're in the middle of a trade and that number comes out and you're not aware of it, the trade could spike the wrong way on you, right? So it's a highly random event that it's usually a good idea not to be in a trade going into it, especially if it's a day trade. If it's a swing trade, you have no choice, right? You're going to be in the trade. But if it's a day trade, it's usually a good idea to wait for the number to come out first and then look for setups. Okay, so that's the economic calendar for this week. It's not particularly eventful. It's important to realize that where we are in the yearly seasonal volume, we're coming into June now, and volume is going to be generally getting smaller. Now, it's not like a light switch where one day it's good and one day it's not. It's a gradual process where volume just kind of gets less and less and less. It doesn't mean we won't have moves. It just means there are more likely days that we're going to see consolidation and erratic movement or slow grinds, things like that. So you have to be able to adjust to this environment. You have to understand the 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 meaning or the significance of that type of market character. Okay. Hey, Howard, how are you? Howard, by the way, I saw your comment on this the ICTC video. Howard left a comment. I'd asked a few people, can you do me a favor, leave a comment. He went to the link in the description that I put, okay, and he put a nice little comment about me. Thank you, Howard, for doing that. Everyone else, if you could do me that favor, please go to the link. There's a link in the description for the ICTC 2025, which I was honored to host. And there's a couple of videos on their website. Go to the video and just in the comments section, because there aren't many comments, just put a comment. Hey, Mark B. Markets, great job. If you could do that for me, I'd really appreciate it. Howard left one. So thank you, Howard. That was very nice of you. So anyway, all right. So that's the economic calendar. Now, so let's do this. Are you guys, let me see how my numbers are over here. All right. So I'm going to wait a few more minutes and then I'm going to play the clip. So, hey, Mohammed, how are you? Good to see you. All right. Um, yeah. But yeah, if you haven't seen ICTC 2025, check it out. It's a lot of, I mean, it's 12 hours of content. I don't expect you to watch the whole thing, but there is some interesting learning situations from that stream. And on top of that, we're going to be talking about that in the interview that I conducted with Merlin. We're going to be highlighting that a bit. In fact, I'm going to try to pull some clips from the ICTC 2025, and I'm going to try to cut them into the interview. Like I said, I want to like just beef it up a bit because I like things to look, as best as possible. Hey, Andrea, good to see you. Good to see everyone. All right. So here's what we'll do. We'll do a little analysis here. All right. And then we'll get into the clip. I'm saving that clip because I'm trying to build anticipation. Although I'm not, I'm probably not doing a very good job by announcing it like that. But anyway, yeah, for those of you just joining, I have a clip of the interview that I conducted with Merlin earlier today, and I'm going to show it here. All right. I have it in the thing. So yeah, it was a great experience, the ICTC 2025. And guys, you have an opportunity if you want to compete on there. Right now, they're accepting applications for the next one. So you guys, if you want to compete, they'll you have a chance to get one of those seats and compete with the other guys on there as well. So trust me, it's worth it. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. You should do it. So let's talk about Bitcoin and what's happening right now. If you read my analysis yesterday on TradingView, I was basically illustrating two things, and you could see it on this chart, right? I was illustrating this pullback and bounce off of the 102 area support, 102 to the 100K area, and I was pointing out, which this little arrow, I drew this arrow yesterday. I was pointing out the possibility of this bearish pin bar developing right here. Okay, um, this situation, in fact, yesterday, this candle right here was bearish. Okay. This candle right here was bearish and it closed bullish. But I was also pointing out this pin bar, which is the lower high from the mother bar. Now, I refer to as the mother bar is this big red candle, right? Because when you have a change in momentum, it usually begins with a large candle going one way or the other. You can refer to it as a mother bar. This is not exactly a bearish engulfing because the high had to be a little bit higher, but it's a large bearish candle. So it usually signifies a shift in momentum, not a change in trend. Don't confuse the two. It's a shift in momentum because the general trend is still bullish and we got a long way to go before it becomes bearish. So I am not calling for a bearish trend. Please don't confuse that. What I am looking at is just a corrective move. That's not a bearish trend on this time frame. It could be a bearish trend on a 1-minute chart, yes, but not on this time frame. So that's very important to internalize because it's going to shape your expectations on whatever time frame you're working on. So Alex says here, hold on, let me just make this bigger because I can't see it. Oh yeah, the Bitcoin conference in Vegas. I was looking into some conferences. When is that? Is that I forget when that was. I need to go to these conferences. So I have to look into that some more. But yeah, I saw something about that, Alex. When is it again? Alex is asking about the Bitcoin. Oh, Oh, it's that close? No, then probably not. It's tomorrow. No, I'm not going to the Bitcoin conference. Uh, I thought it was. I thought I had like a month or two. No, because I mean, there's so many of these conferences, but that would have been nice to go to. But no, I'm not going to that one. Um, yeah, it's a little too short notice for me. Thanks for mentioning, though. So here's the thing, people. Right now, like I said, how you judge this information is going to affect how you trade. Now, the first step to all of this is you have to know the time frame that you trade on. It's not a good idea to be jumping around. So for example, if you tend to be a day trader, right? You're typically working on 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minutes, something like that, maybe a 1 minute, and you typically work on those time frames. If that is what you do, then this information is going to carry a unique meaning that is relative to those time frames. If you are more of a swing trader, you're working on hourly, 4 hour, or daily, possibly weekly charts, and this information will also have significance to those time frames. You have to know your time frame first, and then this information will carry value particular to that time frame. So let's talk about what I mean here. So we have a bearish pin bar developing right now. And my point of my analysis was yesterday we had not broken the 50% of the mother bar, right? Today we have, as you can see, but it's rejecting, isn't it? So that's a bearish pin bar. And that constitutes a lower high relative to this high, right? Let me just point it out. I'll point it out with little squares. This high right here is lower than this high. So this is either going to be a consolidation going forward as the week unfolds, okay? Um, and this can also be the beginning of a more of a corrective move. And that corrective move that I'm referring to is this, right? The test of 100K, 102 to 100K, which would kind of affect our wave count a bit, but that's extreme. I don't know if we're actually going to do something like that. That's just a possibility. Remember, as a trader or even as an investor, your goal or our goal should be to identify scenarios that are possible, but then it's up to the market to confirm. Okay. The market must validate our scenario. If the market does not, then we step aside. We don't continue with our idea because the market is saying, I don't agree with you. And the market is always right. So, what I'm saying here in this situation, we have a bearish pin bar developing. If this bearish pin bar closes, that's a bearish sign, short-term bearish sign. The low of today's candle, which is 1087, we can round that to 1087 even. If that low is broken in the next candle, that that constitutes a short signal on this time frame. Now, should you take a short signal? As you know, I don't take short signals on this time frame. I'd rather not. But on 1 minute charts or whatever, yeah, sure, I'm open to it. But not here, not on this time frame. But if you're aggressive, a short signal is within reason. But the idea is don't expect a lot. Like, you get these guys come out and they're like, oh yeah, Bitcoin's going to go to like 50K. Don't believe that extreme nonsense. You have to go by the structure that Bitcoin is presenting here. And what's within reason are the next support levels. Because if our trend is generally bullish, as you guys know who've been following me for a long time, support is more likely to hold and resistance is more likely to break unless proven otherwise by the market. So we're looking at supports here, right? So if you take that short, it's aggressive. You should expect less. It's better, in my opinion, to take it on small time frames, like a 5 minute or a 15 minute. Grab a small bite. You can use the Trade Scanner Pro. It's ideal for that, right? You take your small bite and you're done with it. Don't sit there and think this thing is going back to 95K. Although it's possible, right now, there's nothing that suggests that that type of correction is in play. We need to break some type of support. We haven't done that yet. Nothing, not even this minor support right here, which is what? What is that low? This low over here is 106,895. I mean, we haven't even broken that. So until supports start breaking, it's not reasonable to be overly bearish, right? That's why it's in my opinion more risk adverse or more risk responsible to work on smaller time frames and take smaller bites. Now, this thing may test the 102 to 100K. If 100K breaks, then that opens up the possibility for 95K. That's where you could be a little more aggressive, look for maybe breakouts on the short side, but you have to be very careful with that because the thing is, this trend structure is pretty well defined. And what that means is you're most likely at every possible turn, you're going to have buyers stepping into this thing, trying to buy it, right? Unless there's some change in the general catalyst or general fundamental. Like if there's some kind of fundamental change, some country comes out and says Bitcoin is illegal, something extreme. I'm just making that up, but you know what I'm saying? Something extreme. If you see that, you're going to see supports break. You're going to see large red candles, right? In that type of scenario. But if there's no bearish catalyst in play like that, then I would be anticipating supports to hold, even if this thing goes back to 95K. All that would mean is we're looking at some type of corrective movement, some type of corrective wave, or maybe a compound corrective wave. And that could be some type of wave 4. It's hard to say at this point. Like this entire structure could be a wave 1, or maybe we get like a wave 2, and there may be a giant wave 3 ahead of us. I don't know. I can't make that type of forecast. The market needs to put the levels in first. It needs to put in the structure, and then we can go from there. All I can tell you is right now we have these 5 subwaves completed. And usually when you have 5 subwaves completed, further upside is limited, at least in the short term. This is another important point that I make. Further upside is limited, and the probability of a corrective move is greater. So how does this help you? Well, for one, if you're an investor, this is a good area to lock in some profits, reduce risk. This is not an area to be putting on more or to be investing heavily. It's just not. You're taking greater risk. The place to do that was 74K. And you say, oh, yeah, sure. You talk about it now after the fact. Well, I was talking about this at the time. You can go back to all my analysis. You can go back to all of my streams at the time. In fact, when I was streaming on Friday, one guy said, oh, yeah, I remember you were calling 76 area, 76, 78 was a buy, and you never do that. That's right. I never do that because those opportunities rarely come about, right? That was one of those opportunities, a failed low, double bottom situation. And that's where you want to be aggressive. That's where you want to add to your investment. That's where you want to do that sort of thing. Okay. So notice what had to happen to get there. You had to have a corrective move, right? So you don't want to be doing those aggressive things at such a level because you're at high risk levels. Sure, this thing could go to 120, but if you're going to try to play with that, you have to understand that the higher it goes, the greater the risk. That's a very important point. All right. Now, I see a question about altcoin season. Altcoin season, I get altcoin season wrong all the time because I guess I go with logic and it's not logical. I look at the bond market. I see the bond market. I see rates rise, right? Rates are rising. That's usually bad for loose money. And to get asset bubbles like an altcoin season, because that's another name for it. It's just an asset bubble. You need cheap money. So the cheap money is certainly not coming from the bond market. So where is it coming from? That's the question. I don't know. Is it Bitcoin profits? Is everyone getting rich on Bitcoin and they're going to take those profits and put them into altcoins? I don't know. So I really take altcoin season and any talk of it, I take it with a grain of salt. If we start to see breakouts and things like that from these garbage coins, well, then, and they're coming from bottoms or they're coming from lows, okay, then maybe there's something there. I just don't know what the catalyst would be to drive something like that. Maybe there's some news that comes out and starts driving them. I don't know. But so I don't really put a lot of weight on that, right? Especially Bitcoin. I look at it this way with Bitcoin pushing all-time highs or fooling around all-time highs, altcoins should be doing better than they're doing because Bitcoin is the leader. Money should be flowing into the altcoins as well. I see the relationship like the S&P 500 relative to smaller stocks. S&Ps are making new highs. Stocks, if your stock is generally strong, it should make highs too, or it should be doing something bullish, right? If the S&P is rising and your stock isn't, when the S&P pulls back, your stock is probably going to go into the toilet faster. That's usually relative strength or relative weakness. That's what that's referred to as. So that's the way I treat that. Now, that's not, I'm not always right about that. A lot of altcoins have their own catalysts that drive them. Some type of news thing, some kind of whatever comes out, and then the altcoin goes from $5 to $50. There are situations like that, but usually those are isolated opportunities. And often the people that make money in those are people that have been following the chat room. They have inside information. Their friend put them onto it. Like that's how you find those really. Maybe you pay a fake guru who researches altcoins all day and you get a lottery ticket out of that. I don't know. But for me, I just I'm not really in tune with the altcoins and the opportunities that exist there. I believe there'll be more opportunities, and typically, and like Alex has agreed with me on this, when there's another altcoin season, it's usually not the names that you think. It's usually a set of new ones, right? Maybe some meme coins or whatever, because that was the recent one. We had meme coin season, and it's usually names that you don't expect or some coin that came out a few weeks ago, and everyone's piling into that one, right? So really, I think it helps to be aware of all the new coins that are coming online, whether they're meme coins or they have more substance than that. But I think the bulk of that research is not technical. It's more fundamental or just marketing. Like if you're just in tune with their marketing, and if you can identify a coin that can attract a lot of people based on whatever their marketing message is, then that's probably an opportunity. Also realize those are very short-term oriented. So altcoin season, if you grab one of those and you buy it at $1 and it goes to $10 or $20 or something like that, you take your money, man, and you run because they're worthless assets. They're not assets. They're gambling vehicles, typically, as we've seen over and over again. Some of them become sustainable. Some of them that provide some sort of ecosystem to build programs on and that type of stuff, right? We've seen that, but I'm not a big fan. Okay. I'd rather, honestly, if I was going to invest money, I'd rather do it in something like the Qs, something that, it's 100 of the best stocks. And all you have to do is wait for a cycle pullback and start buying them. Right. I mean, I know the altcoins offer much greater potential, but to me, that's like playing the lottery. All right. Anyway, it seems way harder now to ride the best coins in altcoin season. Right. I guess it's because, the whole world is in on it and money just kind of spread out all over the place. But I think one of the tough points is people are poor these days, man. Like people don't have money. We have inflationary problems here in this country. Everyone pretends to be rich, but no one has money. So they're going to put money that they don't have. Usually it's money that you do have, like you have extra money, like you get stimulus checks and you're like, oh, I got an extra couple of $1,000. I'll buy altcoins with it, right? That's usually like what kind of stimulates something like that. Where's the money going to come from? So even the US government is poor. They have to borrow money just to pay their interest because we spend too much money, apparently, in this country. We spend more than we bring in. So even the US government can't get it right. So I don't know. We will only have before right. I mean, and I suspect, right, and also this one of my co-host Gert, who was on the ICTC, he's also a wave technician, right, and he's very precise, and he showed me some analysis too on Bitcoin, where he was looking for this rally, but then he sees the same thing I'm seeing. This entire rally is really just like a wave five. This entire thing, when you go back from like the 2017 peak, right? With the beginning of the whole thing. And we're just basically at the top of a gigantic, this entire thing from here, right? This entire structure from here to here is just one gigantic wave one, right? And if that's true, if that's one super cycle or grand super cycle wave one, whatever they call that large magnitude, then that means when wave five actually completes, then we're looking at a wave two. Wave two, in theory, can retrace 100% of wave one and still be bullish. Now think about that. Okay. Now, I don't think that's practical. I think that's an unrealistic expectation or extreme. I wouldn't think we'd see a wave two that would correct to like zero or something like that. But a 50% correction is not unrealistic, right? So for a wave two or even a 618, that's not unrealistic. And on this magnitude, you're looking at a pretty steep corrective move, which is very hard to believe. So, but if there's some catalyst behind that, right, that it's possible. So this is not a forecast. You have to look at it as um, it's a possibility and it's a risk that you take. Okay, that's what you have to consider with this. So if you have Bitcoin from great prices and we're pushing this wave five, which wave five can extend, by the way, this thing can push itself up to 120, possibly 130. It can do it. If it's doing something like that, you should be happy that Bitcoin is giving you such a gift, and you should at least take something off the table. I always suggest that when markets are at their tops or pushing new highs, take something. Now I get criticized for that because people say, "Oh, if I listened to you, I'd be poor." Well, you know what? At least you're taking profit off the table, right? And I'm telling you to do this, and I've been right about this numerous times. Take some money off the table at the highs. It's just a good idea, right? And if the market starts pushing lows, hey, at least you took something off at the highs. But hey, if greed drives you, I can't help you. That's the way I look at it. All right, so that's my general Bitcoin situation, guys. If you have questions, let me know. What I want to do now, for those of you that stuck it out, I want to share with you my clip of the Merlin interview that I conducted earlier today at 5 a.m. Okay, so like I said, um, this clip. Now, hopefully, you guys can hear the sound. Let me make sure that the sound should be on. The system sound should be on this thing. I'm going to play like a few seconds of it. Let me know if you can hear the sound, okay? So I'm going to introduce it. So what we have here is a clip from the interview I conducted. It was Merlin, and Merlin also had this other guy come on, his colleague Tom, who's a like 40-year forex trader. Like the guy comes back from he dates back to like he was an institutional trader like in the 90s, and he was actually a real forex trader. This is before forex became available to the retail trader. So this guy has a lot of experience, and I just met him today. Very interesting guy, and he's certainly someone I want to talk to again. So I'm going to play this here real quick, all right? And I'm going to play a few seconds of it, okay? Right. I'm going to play a couple of seconds of this just to see if there's sound, okay? If there's sound coming out of it. If there isn't, then I have to make an adjustment. All right, so let me get this thing on here, and you guys tell me what you think. All right, so here's my
Yeah,
interview.
I will tell you about the conviction, but first I want to tell you also a small story, Mark, because
Sure, let's
you
hear
didn't
it.
know that. Like when I was
Can you guys hear
the
sound
trade,
or no?
the first trading day was six
Let me know in the
hours,
chat.
or how long
Yeah,
was it? 6 hours.
6 hours.
Right? So at like 4 hours, there came someone to me and he said from, "Hey Merlin, you haven't opened a trade
Okay, cool.
yet, or really not a big position. Should you change your strategy?" So he was just asking to me because he was doubting about what I was doing. And then I was thinking about from, no, of course not. I don't need to change my strategy. When the trade isn't there, I don't need to enter. Although when the trade isn't there, I don't need to enter the trade because otherwise you're going off your plan. And when the trade was there, it was at like 5 hours in the first day. I took the trade with full risk. And then I knew it was the right trade because this was literally my plan. I was waiting for the whole day. And that's why I was truly believing it to take it over the overnight holds. And it worked out quite well the next day. I was waking up. Frank was calling me. He said, "For bro, right now you're first place with just one trade." That's literally insane. But I think
Right.
that's
Perfect.
the reason because
Perfect.
we were sticking to our plan.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah,
all right.
I will tell you
So
about the
yeah, I'm going to
provision,
turn
but
it off now. So that was my clip there of that was about a little over a minute of the interview that I conducted earlier today with Merlin and Tom. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of my little teaser there? Nice, right? Merlin's a really great guy. And for his age, I mean, he's only 24 years old. He's so advanced for his age. I mean, at 24, I had no idea even what a stock was. It was just before I started, so I was clueless. I mean, and this kid is doing pretty well for himself after only 6 years. Now, one of the key things that he told us early on, because I asked him, he had a number of mentors that he paid because that's the fastest way to get this right is you pay people that know what they're doing and they teach you, and it really reduces the learning curve. When yeah, and so I'm going to clean it up, and then when I do, I'm going to put it up on my channel, and you guys will be able to watch the whole thing. But yeah, like one of his key points was he paid for training a few people, and that's what got him ahead so quickly. And it's funny because years ago I met a guy that basically told me the same thing, because more on me, I went by trial and error, and it took me basically 14 or 15 years to get to where Merlin is now. And I ran into a guy, the guy that actually put me on the right path. I've told this story before. At the time, I had twice as much experience as him in terms of time, but he was way more advanced than me. And I asked him the same question: how are you so advanced? And he said, well, I paid this guy, I paid that, and I paid this guy, I paid that guy, I paid this guy. Some of the information was good, some of it wasn't. And then I made it my own. And I was like, huh. But me, I was too cheap and too ignorant and too I had a closed mind. And I'm like, oh, I'll figure this out myself. And I paid for it, man, dearly. I paid, like, it was better off just paying a mentor, someone to teach you the right way. And that's really what shortens your learning curve, honestly. Trying to do this, trying to figure this out, especially today with what you're dealing with, the way markets are today, and all the garbage that's out there. It's very easy to be confused. It's very easy to be misled. You just need to find someone that you like, someone that you trust, and someone that has some sort of proven something, some type of track record that they're demonstrating that they know what they're doing, and it's going to cost money, right? And so Merlin confirmed that as well. But anyway, I'm gonna cut up that interview. Not cut. I'm going to clean it up. Just get all the ums out of there. I say too much, and I'm just going to clean it up and just make it a little more shinier. Polished. That was the word I'm looking for. And then I'm going to release it. And I'm gonna also going to give Merlin and that guy Tom the raw footage. So if they want to do whatever they want to do with it, they can do whatever as well. I'm going to clip it, and put it on other platforms and stuff or whatever. But anyway, that was my first interview, and that was conducted at 5 a.m. So I couldn't even think straight at that time. I was like, man, I hope this guy shows up. That's all I could think. Anyway, but he showed up, and the other guy too. The other guy was located in Florida, which means he had to get up at 5 a.m. as well. And I was like, man, all right, so I wasn't the only one. But the other guy was like, yeah, I get up at 5 a.m. normally. Like, I don't. That was kind of a stretch for me, especially on a holiday. So anyway, all right, so that was my treat there. So now while we're coming into the conclusion part of the stream, I still have some time here. Um, we could take this time to evaluate other markets. Are there any other markets you want to see? Please put it in the chat. While I'm coming up with this, we'll switch over to the bond market, right, real quick, while you guys are coming up with your markets that you want to see. And also, we could also take a look at the Trade Scanner Pro and see if there's anything interesting there for some recent days. I've been getting a lot of signals from the bot, so that means there's something going on there. This is the bond market. Let's go to the weekly, the bond futures, right? Bond prices. Look, as you can see here, I see a lot of videos on YouTube about the bond market, all these dramatic videos, and the bonds are still right in the middle of the range, man. They're not going anywhere. So I guess they have to make these videos because they have to make something to get attention, I guess. But technically, there's nothing going on. The bond market is nowhere, in the middle of the range. In order to see any kind of significance in rates, right, we need to break to new lows. Now, this is configured in such a way that we see the lower high, right? The lower low can happen. It's possible. We're going to need a catalyst for that. but right now it's not there. So I could sit here all day long and say, oh, lower low, but it's up to the market, not me, right? I don't pretend to know. All I can say is we're in a range, and maybe we test the range low, and that's it. But right now, we're not even doing that. I mean, look, we there's like spinning tops here, double bottom situation right in the middle of the range. I mean, so the bond market is uneventful. There's nothing going on here in the 10-year note futures. Nothing. So I would, until something changes here, I would ignore all that drama. Um, let's take a look at something else here. How about, well, anything you guys want to see? Let me know. Let's take a look. That was the bonds. Let's take a look at something like, how about S&P? You guys want to take a look at the S&P? There was something I was thinking of, and now I can't think of it. I wanted to show something besides the bond market here. Uh, let's go to S&P. SPX. No, that's not it. SPX USD, right? And okay, that is the weekly, but I picked the wrong one. Let's go to the, I don't want this exchange. Let's pick like an exchange that has data on it. So SPX USD. Let's see, where's the CFDs? Do I have CFDs on here? I guess no, I'm on all. All right, this should be it. Why am I getting these exchanges? What happened to like forex.com and all them? Usually they were like first. I guess if I click this, no. All right, stocks, no. All right. So like makes that's all the same. All right. I guess these are coming from those exchanges, but no, these numbers don't make sense. No, that's not it. SMR stock. Okay. Oh, that's the Romanian one, right? That's the Romanian one that Alex always talks about. You're still long this thing, right? Oh, wow. Look at that. You're still long this thing? I think Alex pointed this one out before. New Scale Power, right? They're a Romanian company. Look at this. It's a nice looking chart. We talked about this, right? I mean, you have this nice, you have a little overlap there as far as the wave count goes, but look at this move. That's pretty nice. Oh, okay. Oh, this isn't it? Oh, you're still this one. Do I have the right stock here or no? Is this the right stock? Or maybe it was. Oh, okay, okay. Oh, so right path. Okay, got it. This is a nice chart. This SMR. Wow, look at that move. So, I mean, in a situation like that's a weekly chart, right? So let's go to the smaller time frame here. I mean, when you see a situation like this, there's really not much you can do now. If you're long, great, you sell. You take money off the table, no question. You sell because it's trying to break out. Buying here would be a really bad idea, or I should say a high risk idea if you're going long now. This is the same no matter what chart we look at. If price starts pushing into those highs right there and you're buying, you're making others rich. You're taking all the risk off their hands, you're taking on the risk, and they're getting out on you. This is a horrible place to be buying, a great place to be selling, taking money off the table. Okay. Um, okay. Yeah. I remember you've mentioned it before, but this is when you catch something like this, like I said, there's not much you can do now. In fact, you can count waves in here, right? Look, this is a two right here. There's one, two. This is three, four, and this is five, right? They're little micro, they're like the little mini waves, right? There's a impulse structure in there. When you can count five waves, I don't care what magnitude it's on. If you can count five waves clearly, and you can on this structure, that means the further potential becomes very limited and the risk of retrace becomes increased. That's what it means. It doesn't guarantee that you get a retrace, but this is all a probability game. So why would you buy something that has a probability of correcting, that's a greater probability of correcting? Wouldn't you want to buy something that has a greater probability of, going the way you think, going higher, for example? That's typically a wave four, right? A wave four bottom. So that's why when it comes to wave counts, you're looking for wave fours or wave fives. And that's you can get a lot, you can do a lot with just that information. People like to overcomplicate the wave counts. It doesn't have to be that way. But something like this, yeah, I would avoid now. Or if you're in, you take your money off the table, sell something. You want to hold on to some to see if it continues to break out. Okay, cool. But you're just asking for trouble. Typically, moves like this are not sustainable for long. They do their thing. Maybe this thing pops up to here somewhere. Okay, maybe you get something like this up to like maybe 37, maybe into the 40 area. But when the correction comes along, you don't want to be in that, right? Like, I mean, look at these corrective moves. Imagine all the people that bought those highs thinking, oh, this thing's just getting started. It's just getting started. Well, eventually it broke out higher, right? Eventually it worked out, but you had to take all of this pain and you had to hope that this thing turned around in your favor. Same here. If you bought at the top of that move, right, you had to sit through all of this corrective structure, watching it go lower and lower and lower over time, and hope that this thing turns around. Do you really want to be in a position like that? It's usually not good to be at the mercy of the market. Okay. This thing could have worked its way towards zero, whatever, right? And you've been stuck in that. That's the thing with investing. That's what you have to deal with. All right, cool. So thanks for bringing that up, Alex. So let's do this. Let's take a look. Let's go back to Bitcoin. All right, and let's take a look here. Let's put the Trade Scanner Pro on the chart, and let's see if there are any signals present and what we can say about them. Right. So I'm going to turn when you if you subscribe to the Trade Scanner Pro, by the way, you need to turn these settings on. Okay, very important that you turn these on. Now, when you're working on the larger time frames, typically it's not a good idea to be in counter trend mode. You really want to be on the broader, whatever the broader trend is, you really want to just work on that side. It's usually the better idea. The Trade Scanner Pro is a confirmation tool. All right, I have to mention that. So what looks like right now on Bitcoin on the daily time frame, there's nothing here. We have nothing at the moment, and there has been nothing for some time on this time frame. But if we look at a 4-hour chart, we have another story. So look at this. What do we have going on here? Looks like, I mean, looks like the Trade Scanner Pro called this Bitcoin long. Wow, that was nice. That was a nice move. It also called a long very recently. And let's see where we are with that. So again, if you have the Trade Scanner Pro and you're watching this thing on a 4-hour time frame, it called a long, what was that, like yesterday or the day before? Look at that. And this long has advanced somewhat. Okay, which by the way is a nice way to buy the pullback. The whole title of the stream, by the way, is to buy the pullback. When you have a double bottom situation, something like this, like I was saying, it's a little early to buy the pullback, but if you're on a small time frame, like a 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute, this formation can be very helpful to know. Now, even on the 4-hour, the Trade Scanner Pro called a long right here, and it never made it to the profit objective, and it's pulling back right now. But the thing is, if you bought it at the entry price, the trade is still green, right? It's not green by a whole bunch, but let's see. At this point, this trade is green 1,300 points. It's not bad. But the risk, you have to look at the risk, right? And the max risk on this thing was 2,600 points. So even if you blew it out right now, it really wasn't worth your risk. But, sometimes like if it's not working, you're like, I don't like it. You just take the money and just get out, right? Get out, reduce the risk completely, and at least you get away with some green because you have a failed high developing here. This thing can go either way, right? The best place to look for the next long would be somewhere around this low area, like somewhere where near the trailing stop is right now, right? But these trades, these are swing trades. They require a lot more patience and they're a lot harder to hold. Okay, look at the 3-hour. It's all made it. Oh, okay. So see, as we jump around, thanks, Andrea, for pointing that out. Oh, yeah, look at that. It almost got there. Almost got there. Look at that. Right. So, and the trailing stop has advanced and has reduced the risk in half. Right. Look at that. Right. So when you're using the Trade Scanner Pro, again, you're not looking at these signals and saying, oh, look, there's a signal, let me take it. It needs to make sense with your analysis first. You have to do some analysis first. And Bitcoin clearly, there's not a whole lot of analysis to do. It's been generally bullish. So there's really no trend analysis on these larger time frames, whether you're 4 hour, 1 hour, right? The trend has been generally bullish. And all you're looking for is support levels to hold, right? Because again, it's a brief trade. You're not going to be in this thing for long periods of time, maybe a couple of days. And when you get a double bottom situation followed by a signal, that's a pretty good that's a pretty good signal, right? You had the heads up after a double bottom, okay, or failed low. That's a pretty clear signal right there. Now, obviously, you can't be sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours and hours waiting for these signals. That's why you set up notifications, right? You set up notifications from TradingView, and when the heads up pops up, TradingView will send you an email or however you want to be reached. TradingView sends you that, and then you can look at the chart. So, like at this point, this should have been like, wow, that's a nice looking area, right? Excuse me. Sorry about that. So anyway, yeah, interesting. Now I saw signals going off on a lot of things. I think the S&P had a signal. Let's just take a quick look at that. SPX, right? USD. I think it had a signal. And so let's take a look at this one because this one doesn't look so good, right? Now, these signals are typically called on the 4 hour chart. When I see the bot, oh, there's nothing there on the 4 hour? Okay. Usually the bot calls them on the 4 hour chart. But look, on the 3 hour chart, there was something. And look, straight to the stop. Is that right? SPX against the dollar. Yeah, look at that. Those numbers make sense? These numbers don't make sense. These numbers don't make sense. And I don't know what happened to my, you know, maybe I need to look at like ES1. Let's see, ES1, because that's PX. So we could actually take a look at the SPY, right? And the SPY, which is the ETF, right? So there is a signal there. Look at that. There is a signal there. The question is, does the signal make sense? You don't just jump into the signal. I have to repeat that all the time. We want to know first, what's the trend and where are the levels? So one thing I always recommend doing is you turn the Trade Scanner Pro off. Just turn it off. Don't be confused by it, right? Do your analysis first. This trend is bullish. There's no question. Higher lows, higher highs. I don't need to do any more work than that. Takes 2 seconds, right? Now, we have a corrective movement that's been happening here. This is a corrective movement, but that's not necessarily a bearish trend on this time frame. This is just a pullback, right? To a possible support area. Where are my supports? Now, that could be a little subjective, but what you're looking for really are just old resistance levels, okay? Old resistance levels or gaps. Sometimes you have gaps like this right here. You have a little gap in there, right? Those also act as support or resistance levels, but you're looking at old levels. There's a lot of old levels here, okay? You see that? A lot of old levels that were resistance levels. They were broken, and now they're likely to act as support levels. As we know, supports are likely to hold, resistances are likely to break in a bullish trend. So here we are. We've revisited a support level. Looks like it was rejected. What was this, Friday? Excuse me, or whatever, earlier today. That may be overnight. Excuse me, something like that. So when you have that figured out, okay, trend bullish, I'm near a support level, I should be looking for long signals. That's it. Your job is done. Now you turn a Trade Scanner Pro on and you say, okay, where's my next signal? Well, there happens to be one there right now, right? So this long signal does make sense with the general analysis. And you could say, well, what's my risk? The risk is a little over 6.5 points, right? That's like $665 on the SPY if you trade the shares. And the reward is 10 points. That's 1.5 to 1 reward risk because that's what it calculates, 1.5 to 1 typically. So there's a possibility there. The nice thing about this is it's not looking for a new high. It's looking for an area. The S&P is very likely to produce a lower high right here. So that is a very reasonable profit objective, okay, at 1.5 to 1. And that's how you'd work something like that. Does that make sense? So that's really like how you use the Trade Scanner Pro on larger time frames. Like I said, there may be no signal there at the moment, and that's why you set up your notifications and you wait for a signal to appear, and then you should know what to do because you're in line. The mistake you want to avoid, for example, is you're in counter trend mode or you're jumping from time frame to time frame. You don't want to do that. If you're a swing trader, you're typically working with 4-hour charts. I don't think there's a 4-hour signal, is there? No, there's no 4-hour signal. There's no 4-hour. There was a heads up, but there's no 4-hour signal. So in a situation like that, I mean, a 4-hour chart and a 3-hour chart, there's really not a dramatic contrast between the two. So that's not really jumping around, right? Jumping around is you're on a 5 minute and then you're going to a 3-hour, then you're going to like a weekly. That's jumping around. That's you don't want to do that. You want to, if you're going to check multiple time frames, you want them to be close to each other. So if you typically work on 1 minute charts or 2 minute charts, you can switch between 1 and 5, right? 1, 2, 3, whatever, and look for signals because it's generally the same. But if you typically trade on 2-minute charts and now you're jumping to 30-minute, 1 hour, now you're jumping around. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, you guys? Okay, so I think an Ethereum trade went off too. I think I saw Ethereum on the thing. Let's just take a quick look. Was there? Yeah, see, I wasn't imagining things because I get when the bot produces email, when the bot produces signals, it sends out emails. Now, Savi told me that the in the email the information is reversed. I thought that was fixed. I gotta fix that. So it's saying to go short, but it meant long. Okay, it means long because look, there's a long signal here. That's why having the Trade Scanner Pro script on the chart, you know for sure. Ah, yeah, long. All right, now look at that. Just like that one we were looking at with Bitcoin earlier, nice push, nice attempt here, but it's kind of giving some of that back. But if you got in at that entry price, and clearly Ethereum and Bitcoin, they've also been bullish in recent time. This is not a bearish chart. So looking for shorts on these time frames doesn't really make sense. Like I don't know why you'd look for shorts when this thing is not breaking any supports. Your first support is like over here, right? So, and right now it's a consolidation. Now you can argue that you're in the middle of the range, and okay, fine. If you don't want to trade that, no problem. But when you're in the middle of the range, looking for like double bottom situations, right? Whether it's the range low like that, or even you have like all these little support areas right there, those can provide opportunities on smaller time frames, right? If you get confirmations there. Does that make sense? So there is a signal here on the 4-hour, and it's in line with the bigger picture. It's just as you can see, it's just consolidating right now. And this another lesson or key takeaway from this is a lot of times, and I was demonstrating this on Friday, you'll get a retest of the entry line. Okay, you get a retest of this blue line, followed by some kind of pin bar or something. That gives you another opportunity to get involved. If you missed this trade, there may be another opportunity or two to take this trade because it's still in play. That's also another way to use the Trade Scanner Pro, and that's not something you're going to learn by just playing with it or figure. That's something I have to teach you. It's not going to be intuitive to do something like that. That's not obvious, right? To do something like that. So you're only going to learn by me demonstrating that. Make sense? Okay, so cool. I don't see any other questions. So I've been at this an hour now. Do I have any other questions? So I'm glad you liked my interview with Merlin. He was very nice enough to do that. So stay tuned for the full thing. I think you guys will get a lot of insight from it as far as how he had to navigate that competition and stuff like that, and just more about his techniques and stuff. I mean, very, very, very bright guy. He has this academy that he runs where you have to speak Dutch. He mentioned you can't if you speak English, it's not going to do you any good right now. He has a free community where people from everywhere can get involved. But in his office, he actually gets together with his group, they trade together, and they go places together. Like, how cool is that? You don't really prop firms like that. It's not a prop firm. It's like a training academy type thing. That doesn't exist here. Okay, here it's like they just want your money, and if you don't pay them, they just kick you. There's no doing things together. No, they don't even talk to each other in these places. They will all wear headphones. They don't even talk to each other. I mean, I've been in them. I know what it's like. So anyway, cool. So yeah, so Merlin is definitely a forward thinker, and he's got a lot of potential. So you know, and I think he was happy with the experience that we had as well. So hopefully, we'll be able to collaborate more at some other point. But we'll have to get this video out and see how it does. Anyway, all right, guys. So thank you for watching. I don't see any questions. If you haven't tried the Trade Scanner Pro out and you're new, give it a try. 14 days for free. Just make sure that you cancel it before you get billed, because there are no refunds. And I get, people take advantage of me and stuff like that. And it's not a good situation. You have every opportunity to cancel that thing before you get billed. It's 14 days for free. And, I mean, I'm thinking about even changing that because people really just don't appreciate it, but whatever. I'll have to figure that out. Otherwise, try it out and let me know what you think. All right. So, people, if you have any questions, you can email me at markpmarkets.com. I appreciate your time with me here today. Check me out on Wednesday. We will do the regular stream, and I have something to mention on when we do the regular stream about a learning lesson that I want to go over particular to that stream. All right, so stay tuned for that on Wednesday. All right, people. So again, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you for watching.